ready to get funky.
A town where nothing amazing happens. A teacher who thinks chopsticks prevent Alzheimer's. An alien chick who slams into the main character's life like a meteor that blows monotony apart with the power of 1,000 atom bombs. Monotony is something I've always hated. To know where I'll be in 5 years or beyond makes life a predictable slog of meaninglessness. Some might call that security. To me, and perhaps to Nauta, our protagonist, it's a cage. Maybe Nauta wouldn't mind a little security, but what can't be denied is he's bored and unimpressed by this town where no one seems to leave. Save for his brother, who is apparently playing baseball in the good ol' USA. This ball-playing bro we never see is apparently so interesting that his girlfriend spends the whole show pretending our protagonist is actually his brother, probably wearing those hot tight baseball pants. Meanwhile, all this girl with her resting duck face can bring herself to do is smoke cigarettes by the river while time passes her by. Sitting above the town that goes nowhere is a robot production plant that promises security, jobs. It's shaped like an iron. Could it be symbolic? Indeed, in episode 6, there is talk of ironing out wrinkles in one's brain. It's an eerie way of broaching the topic of standardizing the human mind. Don't be unique. Be standard by ironing those wrinkles out. Only the iron can bring security. At least, that's what I gathered from Fooly Cooly. It took basically all of my mental capacity just to figure out what the hell was going on. Granted, I watched the sub, which may have been a mistake for my first time around. This show isn't one to let things breathe. It's bam, 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 and is perhaps the most anime to ever anime in all of anime. I often feel like a Whitey McWhiterson, but FlCl made me feel like an emotionally and sexually repressed middle-aged dad who stumbled across a used panty dispenser while vacationing in Tokyo with the Pikachu parade behind him. I simply didn't know how to feel, so I got a pair of panties. I'm not one to judge whether a show is good or bad, at least not in the videos I make. The plot was hard to follow, but the message was crystal clear. Probably, I guess, but that's life, right? In Mike's last video on Samurai Champloo, he talked about how life has no inherent purpose. That's not to say it's meaningless, but really, life is all made up. At any moment, you can break all the rules if you really want to. Maybe you've been vying to be a doctor all your life. Technically, there's nothing stopping you from moving to Taiwan and starting a metal band. Wouldn't that be a confusing life? It'd be a lot like Fooly Cooly, a wild ride where you barely know what's happening and it's all a metaphor for growing up being weird and stupid. This is the story of boredom replaced with chaos, of inspiration sparked through trauma. This is the story of wishes granted with a price that real life always brings. We're talking about Fooly Cooly, the story you never knew. Now, before I dive into this dense anime, in case it wasn't clear from the intro, Season 1 will be the focus of this video, cause I'm feeling classic today. Also, there's something I've gotta say. Ryan read the FlCl Omnibus and was so lost that we felt the need to dive into the anime. You may know Ryan as the white boy anime pleb, so it's no wonder the manga made his eyes bleed. I mean, what kind of story has 3 different characters with the same name? Just Sauron and Saruman were hard enough. Nauta's nickname, Takun, refers to this guy, this cat, and this thing that eats cell phones. Reading this in a manga confused the crap out of him, but after we sat down and got into the anime, things started making a bit more sense. Also, reading the wiki helped. Now, Ryan has exited the fetal position and is speaking in full sentences again. Strap yourself in, please. We're diving in! This show is a clusterfuck. We've got our beloved Nauta Nandaba, aka Takun, aka the main character, a 12-year-old boy living with his father and grandfather in a city where nothing amazing happens. Nauta's dull, monotonous small city life is given a spark when this Vespa-riding alien-like humanoid named Haruko momentarily kills Nauta by hitting him over the head with an electric guitar and a motorcycle. A Rickenbacker 4001, the same guitar brand used by members of Metallica, the Beatles, Queen, The Who, Franz Ferdinand, and, well, well, you get the picture. It's a big deal of a guitar. Don't worry about the killing stuff, though. Haruko revives Takun, because it'd be pretty awkward if the main character died for realsies in the first 10 minutes. Unless it's Yu Yu Hakusho or any isekai. The head injury, however, created a no portal which allows for the power to mentally call objects and energies through light years of space, meaning it's an open channel through multiple dimensions to instantaneously pull things through. As you may imagine, Naota is upset with Haruko for turning his head into a portal to pull weird things through. Naota hates Haruko for the first half of the show, which is funny. His disdain for his hometown is apparent. He has no respect for his dumb teacher. He's mad that he's supposed to be a talking cat in a stupid school play and nothing interesting ever seems to happen. Until an alien chick smashed his head with a guitar. Dude got his wish. You were bored Naota Nandaba. Well, now robots are being pulled through your forehead from light years away. Also, there's kind of a cute girl who lives with you now and makes your room messy and is banging your dad and kind of sort of wants to bang you even though you're 12. Back to the robots coming from the forehead thing. These robots escaped from and are produced by Medical Mechanica, a corporation shrouded in mystery that has large factories in the shape of giant clothing irons throughout various planets. The robot we've come to know and become attached to is named Kanti, who is the first one out of Takun's head hole. This forehead explorer pioneer becomes a live-in maid of sorts for Takun and his family. This is all a little funky considering what Kanti was used for. You see, there's also this being named Adamisk, also known as the Pirate King. If his name isn't a dead giveaway, he's kind of a big deal. His no portal is so great that he can steal and manifest entire solar systems. It isn't until the last episode that we see his true form, a giant glowing red bird. Until this point, the Pirate King has been chilling inside of Kanti, unbeknownst to everyone except maybe Medical Mechanica. As more and more robots come to town, Adamisk is able to channel his power through Kanti by eating/using Takun and defeating said robots. Meanwhile, our grumpy protagonist begins to develop feelings for the girl who gave him everything he subconsciously wished for. He goes on a road trip with her on her dope motorcycle. How odd that when monotony turns to chaos, our protagonist rejects his new life for so long. Sure, having to wear a bandage around school is embarrassing, but what do you think it takes to not be bored? Sometimes the answer is a hell of a lot more than just one head bandage. In a way, I empathize with Takun. I used to work 9 to 5 jobs. They were alright, but overall they just weren't for me. The lifestyle they promised was predictable and was all about following a path someone else had laid out for me. Now I make videos on anime, video games, and memes, I guess. Monotony got thrown out the window, baby! I've been doing this for over 5 years. Before I got into this, I expected a life free from monotony to be free in the most naive sense. But turns out throwing off the shackles of predictableness comes with things I didn't expect. Namely, chaos. For Takun, the chaos was something that only fiction could bring to the table. For me, it was being able to work whenever I wanted, so long as I met deadlines, and being able to be baked whenever I wanted, so long as I met deadlines. Once I went full-time YouTube, suddenly I was working sporadically throughout the day instead of in nice, neat 8-hour chunks. I was also super high for most of it. I've recently quit the weeds for the foreseeable future. Looking back on the last few years, half of my 20s feels like a weird dream. It feels like an IRL version of FlCl. Combine this with all the troubles YouTube has given us with the monetization and the mistakes we've made over the years on Treesicle, and the life of freedom came with its own set of cages. Confusion, constant chaos. It was a weird dream, but surely not all your dreams are positive. I ain't complaining. I'm grateful for everything that's happened, but dang has it been weirder and more heart-wrenching than a standard job with a stable income and no intense emotional attachments to my work. For a while there, I wasn't sure if I'd made a wish with a monkey's paw. Maybe you've read that story about a magical monkey hand that grants any wish with a price the wisher would never want or expect. This one guy wishes for his loved one to come back to life and a corpse comes knocking at the door, that kind of stuff. Takun fell into a life he never expected but always wanted, and it took him almost the whole show to realize how to love it. In this way, I relate to Takun. Monotony is my poison, but it was only life experiences that showed me freedom from predictability has its own cages. It's only when you learn to love annoying, mysterious alien chicks and integrate them into your life that things start making sense again. At the end of the show, Pirate King does this thing to power up with the help of tasty Takun. Also, the Iron Witch gave security is about to be picked up by a hand used to demolish the town it spent many years providing jobs for. Something too much suppression of individuality ultimately leads to the demolition of the very security it once created. Takun soon pulls himself out of Kanti, keeping a hold on Adamisk's powers and fights alien girl Haruko. During the fight, Haruko spills the tea and says she wants to keep on the trend of the show and eat someone to acquire power. That someone being Adamisk. Takun immediately releases Adamisk's powers, expressing his love for and kissing Haruko. And we see Adamisk's glorious bird form and see him fly away and his no portal to continue his search for the dolphin overlords. Okay, the whole thing is true, but I added the dolphin part. Also, the Iron Witch threatened to de-wrinkle everyone's brains has been uprooted. When the FL climax has been splooged, Haruko asks her little boy toy if he wants to come with her on her journey to find Adamisk, who is now somewhere out in space. Takun doesn't answer. She calls him just a kid and then flies off like only an alien would. Also, an electric guitar appears. Takun takes fancy for it, and the last moment of the show shows the guitar giving itself a single strum. End. Isn't it fascinating that Naota comes to love his once despised roommates? Isn't it interesting that when given the opportunity to join her on a journey through the stars, he decides to stay in his town where nothing ever interesting apparently happens? He will stay behind and live in this place. The Iron is no longer a threat to individuality, and he now has lived through experiences which were so crazy it's hard to know what even happened exactly. It shows he's come to value the security that comes from his town, but is also instilled with inspiration. If Fooly Cooly taught me anything, it's that monotony isn't always bad. When you know what's coming next and you have security, you can plan for the future and work towards something you really, truly want. Being baked all the time and working from midnight to 4 a.m. weekly is like trying to piece together what the hell is happening in FlCl. Life just becomes a soup of experience that leaves you grumpy and scratching your head as to why you're even here. Now I've rearranged my life to work in the same blocks of time I once thought held me back. Working from 9 a.m. to 6 or 7 p.m. most days is great. I know what's coming and what I have time for outside of work. I've found freedom and security because I've also got an electric guitar. But symbolically, I have an electric guitar. I'm talking about these YouTube channels. And before I had those, I just did YouTube on evenings and weekends until it finally paid off. My no portal is open, but I've learned to manage it. Isn't it interesting that the portal in Naota's head is called a no portal? What is the NO supposed to mean? No! Don't let things out of your head. Don't let the contents of your mind tumble forth into the outside world. Iron those wrinkles out of your brain. Remember, the iron is metaphorical to conditioning, societal conditioning, metaphorical to being a drone. Even on YouTube, a platform supposedly about you that should allow its creators to be free and its viewers to watch what they please, things are heavily censored. Don't be too sexual, don't swear too much, follow these advertiser-friendly guidelines which may or may not actually apply. People want to express themselves and want to be open. There's so many who fear mental conditioning. The popularity of 1984 is proof of that. And yet, having an open mind is being vulnerable. You allow things to enter your no portal, which creates additional wrinkles in your brain. You can't always choose what goes in. Oftentimes, you see artists depressed. Creative people are notoriously mentally unstable because they think outside the box. They don't conform to societal conditioning. In a way, their brains are chaos, and their goal is to make order out of chaos all the time. Really, a no portal is a yes portal. Having an open mind is both good and bad. It's freeing, and having freedom is great, but there's a negative side. It can be chaotic, depressing, unsafe, and uncertain. Yet closing the no portal turns a person into a zombie, into a person whose life has nothing amazing that ever happens. Yet being a drone is an easier way to be. But is it worth it? That's for you to decide. If you're bored with your life and you've thought about just saying it and giving it all up, ask yourself how you could get yourself an electric guitar and strum that thing when you know you'll have the time. Security can be a foundation for the future you want. It doesn't have to be a cage. With enough strumming, you might just build a life where security turns to freedom, and freedom is what you imagined it to be rather than complete chaos. That's the story of Fooly Cooly. The story you never knew. That's my take on FlCl. It's a wild ride, and it's one of the few times I prefer the dub over the sub for the sheer amount of information that has to be processed. Also, thanks so much to Michael David, who is the lucky patron of the week. Thanks for supporting the channel, dude. It means a lot. If you liked what you saw, definitely check out our Patreon, support us if you've got some spare dollars or euros or whatever it is you use, and thanks for watching. With that, I'm Grant. I'll see you in the next episode of The Story You Never Knew. Stay tuned next week for whatever Mike's got down the pipe hole. Bye, everyone.